All right, welcome back. In the last lesson, we were talking about basically Rome being able to just expand with the new legion system, this whole idea of adapting to new situations through the Samnite Wars and the Pyrrhic Wars, as well as others. There's other wars as well that can get into this, but I'm holding to those two main wars, the Samnite Wars and the Pyrrhic Wars, where they now have pretty much complete control of Italy. Again, minus the Po River Valley in the very north. We'll get there later. But this brings them into direct conflict with the mighty Carthaginian Empire. This is an ancient empire. It's been around for a while. It's an extension of the Phoenicians who come from basically the Levant, from the area just below Syria on the Fertile Crescent. But I mentioned this in our lessons on Greece, but they become major explorers, and they explored the Mediterranean, set up a lot of colonies and settlements. So when their home area gets taken over by the Persians and others, places like their colonies, like the big one is Carthage, kind of become autonomous. And yes, they're Phoenicians, but we call them Carthaginians today mainly because their main city is Carthage. But they are Phoenicians, Phoenician religion, Phoenician ethnic background, things like that going in here. So they've been around for hundreds of years at this point. Again, I can't remember when Carthage was founded, but again, they've been around for hundreds of years and they've been really one of the main dominant, you could say almost like regional powers of this area. But now Rome has showed up as a regional power, this new upstart. And just to kind of get into it, between the two, it's like, I guess they don't really have to go at it with each other, but it's almost like they want to. It's like, the two biggest bullies on the block, who's going to come out the victor. And so, basically, before I get into the idea of like why they start the war, that comes on the next slide, I need to talk about what Carthage is mostly based off of. Carthage is mostly based off of a navy. Like, to control a big trade empire, that means that you're sailing all the time to go visit other places of your empire. Well, of course, you need lots of ships. And so a lot like Athens with their dealing league, they made sure like, okay, we're going to control the seas. That was the best way to protect ourselves. Carthaginians do the same thing. Romans don't really have a navy. They're all about land warfare, and they're very good at that, but they really don't have a navy. If this kind of giving you a little bit of a look back to the Peloponnesian War between Sparta and Athens, you kind of have the same setup here. Sparta had the great army, but Athens had the great navy, and it was kind of, they were pitted against each other. Well, in this case, Rome has the great army, and Carthage has the great navy, and they're about to go at it with each other. And again, it's very hard to overcome each other's big things. Like, Carthage has a way to get to Italy, yes, but Rome's armies are just too big and too much to deal with. Rome doesn't have a navy to really get back at Carthage, so Carthage can keep coming at him every now and again, and it just becomes a bit of a stalemate, at least after the war starts. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But you just need to know this is the big idea. Where the Carthaginians kind of lack is they don't have a huge army. They rely a lot on mercenaries for their stuff. And mercenaries, definitely aren't as trustworthy. Definitely good fighters, but definitely not as trustworthy as, say, like your patriotic Roman soldiers. So that's kind of the setup here of what's going on, leading into what's called the First Punic War. There's 3 Punic Wars, and these are the names we give to the wars between Rome and Carthage, which, along with the Persian Wars that we talked about between the Greek city-states and Persia, are seen as like some of the most epic wars of all antiquity. These struggles, these titanic struggles between Rome and Carthage. Anyways, now why do they come at each other? Well, it's all about coming up with an excuse. Like they want to, and one of the major focuses is the island of Sicily, mainly because Sicily is a source of a heck of a lot of food, a ton of food. You get access to that, and your economy's doing great. And both of them kind of want that. Carthage is already there a bit, but in their way, and who they're having a kind of a tiff with is the Greek city-state of Syracuse. But then there's something else that happens that just allows the Romans to get in there, and that is something that happens with a little town up there. And I don't know if you can read it on this video you're watching, but the town in the northeast tip of Sicily, almost touching Italy, is a little town called Mesenna. I'm not going to go into the whole reason of like, there's a weird, it's kind of a weird story. It's like one of those things like you're declaring war over that. Like, well, now I'm going to get into it. Basically, it's like this, Messenians hire this mercenary group kind of to fight a battle for them, but they end up, these mercenary group actually take over Mesenna. The original Messenians are not too happy about this. They look to the Carthaginians for help. The Messenian mercenaries look for Rome for help, saying, well, we have every right because they didn't pay us to be here. Anyways, it's just kind of this, you don't start a world war over this. It's just this idea that Carthage and Rome really wanted this excuse, and so when this comes, they both jump at it. And they know it's going to happen. They know by choosing sides with the two factions within the city of Mesenna, that they're getting into a war with each other, and they're both kind of chomping at the bit for it. So, but this starts the First Punic War. And it goes basically the way I was explaining earlier. It's just, it goes on for a long time, because neither side can really get a good upper hand against the other. And so, like, there's Rome gets some victories here and there, but then has some setbacks. Carthage definitely has some things that goes well for them, but gets some setbacks. What happens on Sicily is kind of crazy. Carthage actually has a cool general. Oh, I'm going to mess up the name. I want to say it's Hamilcar. I hope I'm not messing that up, because we Hasdrubal, I mess up those two names sometimes. It's father and son. But anyways, the father of those two does a great job of hounding the Romans with his Carthaginian army in Sicily, just doing a good job of it. In some ways, it looks like he probably should have won that if Carthage didn't give up over time. I shouldn't say give up, but essentially they lose their navy. It's hard to support them. But this goes back and forth, just with the land wars and a little bit here in Italy, but mostly in Sicily. The Romans try to do some invasions here and there, it just don't go well. And it just comes down to the fact that Romans are just not good at fleet battles. They definitely have the manpower to build it and the resources to build them, but they're also not very good at building those type of ships. It just so happens that there was a storm that hits the Carthaginian fleet at some point, and a bunch of their ships are washed ashore, which the Romans are able to get and study. And so, so they actually learn how to build good warships like the Phoenicians do. And so they start copying that and building their own ships. But they also add in this whole idea of adaptation. So this is where the Romans definitely prove that they're a bit better than the Spartans when it comes down to it. If you remember with the Spartans and the Athenians, the Spartans were like, we're going to build this fleet and just take on the Athenians as is. And they keep getting beat over and over again until they do that Python tactic we talked about to destroy the Athenian fleet. But coming back to Rome versus Carthage here in the First Punic War, Rome's like, well, we realize that we can't beat the Phoenicians out of their own game, so how can we utilize what we're good at to beat the Phoenicians? And so they come up with this idea, and I can't remember what this is called, but it's this big bridge with a massive iron hook attached to it. That's why I'm showing that ship there. And the whole idea is that, remember, I talked about this ancient Greece. A trireme is all about either ramming the other ship or throwing stuff at it, maybe burning it down with fire arrows. Well, the Romans add a whole new aspect to this, like even more so than it ever has been. They've had this a little bit beforehand, but not like the Romans do it. Once that bridge can come down and just attach to the other ship, meaning that if they ram you and they outmaneuvered you, they're better at seamanship than you are. Doesn't matter. That bridge is on a swivel, you lay it down on their ship, you run across, and you turned a naval battle into a land battle, and that's where the Romans excel at. And pretty soon, the Romans have basically destroyed or taken over the Carthaginian fleet. The Carthaginians get wise pretty quickly, and they don't allow themselves to kind of get taken in by this, but the damage was done in the very beginning, and this threat is always there where the Romans are able to now push forward. And it gets so bad over time that where the Carthaginians are like, we just got to give up. We lose. Much to, again, I want to say it's Hamilcar or Hasdrubal. Again, that Carthaginian general in Sicily. I really should be looking this up because it's big time, because his other son is a guy named Hannibal, which is a guy we're going to be talking about in the next video a lot. One of the most famous generals of all time. So his dad is pretty ticked off that Carthage basically gives up, and that they also agree to pay what are called indemnities, where Rome is saying, well, this war was so costly to us that you owe us a ton of money, so pay up. And Carthage just agrees to pay up, but holy cow, do they agree to pay up very, how do you put this? They're embittered. So, but that is the end of the First Punic War, and the outcome of the First Punic War is that, well, one, Rome expands beyond Italy. They now not just get only Sicily, which, by the way, Syracuse becomes a major ally of Rome at this point, but they get all of Sicily and they get access to a lot of food. But they also get the Roman settlements in Sardinia, an island that we looked at in the first video, in the geography video. So now you have these kind of first colonies, or the first areas of Rome is now expanding beyond the realm of what they're used to on the Italian peninsula. Also, Rome is now considered a major Mediterranean power, not just this upstart in the Western Mediterranean, that could maybe stand up to Carthage, and now they have. Now you got like the former Alexandrian empires, like the Antigonids and stuff like that, the Greeks all over the place, the Achaeans. I know you don't. I haven't talked much about Greece when it gets into those alliances, but basically the Greeks are looking out west and saying, "Who are these Romans?" Everybody's kind of looking this way and is like, who are they? Now they underestimate them, most definitely. There's definitely an underdog story there, but Rome is now turning some eyes after they beat Carthage and got all of this, were able to expand as well as they did, getting Sicily and Sardinia. But the biggest thing is, that allows them to go forward and dominate the Mediterranean over time, is they have one of the largest and best trained, organized, and trained armies in the world at this point, as well as a very large and well-trained navy. And that's just kind of like the double whammy that everybody can't deal with very well in the Mediterranean. Everybody just starts following one by one. But we'll go over some of those. We're going to talk about the Second Punic War next time with Hannibal. I'm not going to go much into the wars they have with Greece, although I might mention it a little bit here and there. But anyways, we'll end this video on the First Punic War here, and I'll see you in the next video.